We are ending day 5 of our pilot season Actor Summit with our keynote speaker, Sterling K. Brown. I'm Wendy Davis, and I can't wait to share this exclusive, insightful interview with this multi-award winning actor. Remember to join our Facebook group, Get the Audition, Book the Job, where we discuss all the incredible gems that we've learned from our industry experts. That way, you'll get the absolute most out of this Actor Summit, and you'll be well on your way to making this your very best year. And now for my interview with our keynote speaker, Sterling K. Brown. But first, a quick bio. Born in St. Louis, Sterling K. Brown initially pursued an economics degree at Stanford until being, quote, bored to tears while interning at a bank. He rediscovered his passion for acting and went on to earn his BA in theater in 1998 before claiming a master's in fine arts from NYU in 2001. Brown's acting career got off to a solid start with a small part in the film Brown Sugar and recurring roles on Third Watch and Supernatural. In 2007, Sterling landed a series regular role on Army Wives, playing the lone husband in a tribe of civilian wives dealing with the challenges of military life. Army Wives is the series that I had the privilege of teaming up with Sterling on as his wife for 7 seasons. A hit for Lifetime, the show lasted until 2013. Brown returned to sporadic appearances in hit shows like The Good Wife and The Mentalist. He nabbed another recurring role on Person of Interest. In 2015, Sterling was cast in The People vs. O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story, which recalled the drama surrounding the 1995 murder trial of former football star O.J. Simpson in Los Angeles. Brown delivered a nuanced, powerful performance that thrust him to the forefront of a star-studded cast for which he claimed an Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actor. In 2016, Brown was tapped to join NBC's drama This Is Us as Randall Pearson, the grown-up black adoptee of white parents. Brown immediately grabbed viewers in the pilot episode when he reconnected with his biological father, William. Sterling's authentic performances drove the popularity of this show. In January 2018, Sterling made history as the first African American to win an Emmy Award for Best Performance by an Actor in a television series. Sterling K. Brown's next buzzworthy performance was in Marvel's superhero film Black Panther in 2018, where he played the powerful Prince Njobu. In 2019, Black Panther was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture. Married since 2007 to actress Ryan Bethea Michelle, whom he met while they were both undergrads at Stanford University. They have 2 sons. Sterling.
Wendy.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to Acting Pros, and thank you so much for coming.
It's my pleasure, man. What are you talking about?
Appreciate
you
it.
the homie.
Aww.
My girl.
All right, well, I'm so glad you're here to, share your wisdom with our actor peeps, because I feel like some of this information they really want to know, and coming from you, it's going to hopefully make a difference for them in their lives.
I hope so, too. If I have any wisdom to share,
Oh, come on now.
We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Let's give it a shot.
All right, so let's start with the very beginning. What made you decide that you wanted to be an actor?
Freshman year of high school, I did a musical. The Troubadours musical at my high school was Godspell. And you do it 3 days over Thanksgiving weekend. And we sing this song at the end of the play. It says, "Prepare ye the way of the Lord." You're singing, "Prepare ye the way of the Lord." And you're carrying Jesus out. And we get a standing ovation every night. And Saturday night in particular, the audience stood up before we even finished the play. And as we're carrying Jesus out the room, and they're standing up, and you feel this rush of wow, it's like a high.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And me and my best friend, we get up on stage for the curtain call. I can't remember if he said it or I said it, but we bowed, and we were like, we got to keep doing this shit. It was because I was an athlete. I played football, basketball, and I experienced that high, bashing people around and touchdowns and tackles and all that type of stuff. I was like, oh, I can get the same high and not hurt myself. This seems like the way to go, right? But it was once you get that bit by the bug, you just keep chasing it. You know what I'm saying? And then I realized that I actually had a real genuine affinity for performance, for trying to step into other people's shoes, to understand what life is like from another perspective. And I think that acting is like sort of the ultimate sort of engagement of empathy, you know, because you can't judge somebody and play them at the same time. But that's what started freshman year.
Wow, that's huge. That's such a huge statement, right? You
Yeah.
can't judge someone and play them at the same time.
No.
Absolutely is right. And so, how did you break it to your mom? Because I'm sure she had visions of you becoming a doctor, a lawyer, or something like that, or no?
No, you know what's interesting? So I believe my mom was the oldest of her siblings, but she wasn't the oldest son. So her family, she wanted to be a doctor, right? But her dad didn't think it was a prudent course for her to pursue because at that time, in the 60s or whatnot, there weren't a lot of female doctors, definitely not a lot of African-American female doctors. But he supported his son going to pharmacy school.
Wow.
Right? And his son was just a year younger than his daughter. And so I think when I realized what it was that I wanted to do, my mom said what she always says, being the good Christian soldier that she is. She said, "Did you pray about it?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I did." And she said, "That's the way you feel led?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I do." And she said, "Go with God." I didn't make my decision till sophomore year of college. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Great. So you went to college to study
Economics. I was an econ
economics.
major.
Okay, and then sophomore year, you changed your
Yeah.
direction
Correct.
at the university that you were
Stanford University.
Stanford University.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Wow. And so you changed from economics to the
Drama.
theater program.
I was a drama major.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And what technique do you use? Do you have a favorite approach, like Meisner method, Stanislavski, or do you have your own concoction?
I would say Stanislavski is my primary influence in terms of how I approach the work. But you know, it usually just comes down to like the basic questions of who are you? What do you want? What's standing in your way? Right? If you read the script, it'll tell you, you know, who you are. Like you'll hear two things actually. What you say about yourself and what other people say about you, right? And so then you have to kind of make a choice of like, all right, do I have a clear view of who I am, or is their view of who I am clearer than that? Or does an amalgam of the two sort of, you know, coexist simultaneously? You got to know who you're talking to, what the nature of the relationship is between you and those people. What is it that you're trying to achieve in this particular interaction, and what's keeping you from achieving that? And that's I try to make it as simple as possible. You learn the given circumstances of the character and of the play or the movie or the TV show, and then you just try to pursue those objectives with different intentions and see if you get it or you don't.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to actors who are starting out? You know, maybe before they've even started their journey into training, or what advice would you give those?
Is it advice for craft or advice for business?
Maybe both.
Maybe both. Well, craft, I feel like education is important. Like being in class, being in training is important. I went to, I got my MFA from NYU, from the graduate acting program there for acting. And it was 3 years of immersion that I will carry with me for the rest of my life, because it armed me with some tools that I can use, whether it's voice work and speech work or accents or singing, etc., movement, a way to approach the text. I found that time invaluable. And so I feel like if you want to take it seriously, you know, doctors go to med school, you know, lawyers go to law school. There's all these different professional schools. I feel like you should educate yourself, whether it's an MFA program, classes, et cetera, or independent study, but don't feel like you can just show up and do it. You know,
Right. It looks easy.
It looks easy, you know what I'm saying? And that's our job, to try to make it look easy, but there's work that goes into it. As far as the business is concerned,
Yes.
which is like a whole other can of
Absolutely.
worms, because it's It's not called show art. It's show business for sure. I started my career in New York, and I feel really comfortable and happy of having a theater background, because I feel like it is easier to transfer the skills from theater to screen than it is to go from screen to theater. Because in theater you have to hit the back wall, you have to work on your articulation, etc., and it's always easier to scale those things down. But if you're used to playing to like your close-up, and you know, all I'm doing is this right
That's
now,
right.
then you try to get up on stage and you try to do the same thing. It's just not going to fit. You know
They're
what I'm
gonna be
saying?
like, what?
Yeah. What's this? This brother seems real interesting, but I can't
Can't
hear
hear
him.
Can't see what he's doing.
Yeah, I feel like a stage background helps for everything, right? For everything. New York and LA are such two different beasts. Those are the two cities that we tend to talk about the most, where
Yeah.
there's still Chicago, and there's Atlanta, and there's Minneapolis, there's all these other places. But if you're talking about those two cities, I'll say there's one primary difference culturally, and that is in New York, the art of transformation is something that I think is prized and expected. It's a smaller pool.
The art
and
of
they-
transformation meaning like
Meaning like they know you as an actor and as a person,
I
and now
see.
let me see your work. And so you take your moment and you sort of show them the character work that you've developed. In Los Angeles, they are much more enamored with the idea of like, I found the guy. I found the person's perfect. He's not acting. So when you walk into an audition in,
right, like
in LA, I'm walking in character. Like they don't know that, but I'm walking in character in LA, because they don't want to see me transition from like Sterling to whoever the character is. They want to see that character when I walk out
they
the
want to
car.
believe that that's who you
They
are.
want to believe that's who you are.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
that's a pretty big distinction.
That's what I would say the biggest difference between those two cities is, for sure.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Let's talk a little bit about in between jobs.
Okay.
So in between jobs, right? Like between Army Wives and This Is Us.
Yeah.
How did you keep your instruments sharp?
Yeah, it's good question. Well, there were little jobs that I had in between. Like I did
You had some pretty
Recurring on
substantial
Without a
recurrings.
Trace. Yeah, I did a pilot for AMC that ultimately didn't go.
And didn't you do a play? It was
did.
down in LA.
It started off in New York. It's a Susan Laurie Parks play. She won the Pulitzer for a play called Top Dog, Underdog. But the play that we did was Father Comes Home from the Wars, Parts 1, 2, and 3. And so I went to New York and did that play at the Public Theater. And that was amazing. It was amazing. It's a huge play and it's a huge part. Monster undertaking. But I'm probably the second most difficult thing I've done in my life in terms of the art of it. But it was one of those things where, like, when I got finished doing it and I was back in Los Angeles, I was like, bring it on. Like, nothing's going to, like, make me balk or make me, like, step away, because I feel after I did that, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about auditions.
Okay.
Okay. What's your particular process? Well, you did talk a little bit about how you approach a scene, but how do you approach auditions? Oftentimes they're within 24 hours.
Sure.
Right. So what's you get sides. What do you do?
I read them.
Start with that.
I read them a lot. No, okay. Seriously, and sort of like tongue in cheek, I read them a lot. I read them over and over and over and over and over and over again. And usually what happens is I'll start to hear a voice of how the character is supposed to talk. And what happens is the more I read it and say it, the more that I sort of delight myself with the interpretation that I come up with, the more I know I'm in the pocket. You know what I'm saying? So like I'll make myself laugh, or I'll make myself sort of get misty. And then I know like, okay, I've clicked into something that feels right for me to like be a conduit for these words, right? But I would say one of the biggest things when it comes to auditioning is confidence and giving yourself the space to feel confident. Because if we walk into a room and we would never audition for the same thing, but I'm saying We're walking into
Probably
a
not.
room. We're walking into a room. We're auditioning for the same part, and I'm thinking from the producer's perspective. They don't know either one of our works. They're gonna pick the person that looks like they can do the part.
Yeah.
Like when you're a kid, and everybody's lined up against the fence, and it's time to play kickball. But I ain't never seen anybody play kickball before. That dude who looks like he knows how to play kickball, that's the dude I want on my team. And so when you walk into that room, you have to own the space in such a way that like this is your time. You're not on their time. They are on your time. And you have prepared something special that you're about to share with them. You know it's special, and you know they're going to know it's special. I honestly don't believe in saying, I'm sorry in that moment. You can just be like, I'm gonna do that one more time. And then you do it. You take the time that you need to feel prepared so that you can launch into it in a way that makes you feel comfortable. When you're uncomfortable, when you're unsure, you can't really expect anybody to be comfortable or sure for you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you have to prepare, right? Like you really give yourself every opportunity. You don't want to go back after that audition and be like, man, I should have, if I would have given myself. Don't do that. Like a lot of it is self-sabotage. So try to make sure that you can just don't do that.
Right. Or
You
ask
know?
like, is it okay to?
Right. No.
Yeah, no.
No, you better to ask for like forgiveness than to ask for permission.
Permission.
You know what I'm saying? Like you do your audition the way that you want it. Because that's what you prepared. And know that it's, look, not in an egotistical way, but in a way that like knows that you are of value. Know that what you have to share is good.
Absolutely. That's such great advice. And you know, I remember when you came into audition for Army Wives because remember? So they cast me first
Right.
for the show, and then I was the reader at the network test.
Yeah.
And all of the guys were great. And I remember you came in and you were just so like authentic and real, and I mean the confidence was just there. I mean you just walked in, you did it, and you walked out. And I just remember like I was like, I think that guy's gonna get it. Like I didn't want to be like that one, guys. You know, I didn't want to say that, but I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be that one right
That's
there.
funny.
So yeah, so everything that you just shared, you definitely demonstrated in that audition.
Right.
I remember you were telling me about your People versus OJ audition, and you said that you got it 24 hours in advance. And I said, so what'd you do with it? And you said something like, I stayed up with it, right? Because it was how many pages?
It was several. I mean, maybe seven to 8, something like that.
7 to 8. It just
Yeah.
sounded like it was a lot of dialogue, and you just basically, because I always tell my students, listen, you've got to produce results, and sometimes you're going to have to stay up late, get up early
Yeah.
to get that done because of the way auditions happen
Yeah.
in such a short time.
I mean, especially during this thing called pilot season.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's just like, if you're blessed enough to have like things coming at you, you're like, well, you can't say I can't do it. You just try to find a way to make it the best thing possible. But that audition it was one of those things where the script came in, they're like, they want you to audition for Darden, People versus OJ. I was like, I remember that dude. That's the first thing I said.
I remember that dude.
I was like, I remember that dude. Because I was in college when the trial was happening.
Yeah.
And a microcosm of what was happening over the world. I lived in this dorm that was half black and half everybody else. And the black people, when they announced the verdict, were like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, great. And the white people and everybody else was like, y'all Negroes. So I remember it vividly. And so I started looking at like YouTube videos from the trial, different interviews that Darden had done for his voice. And like I literally, without thinking, I walked into my bathroom and shaved my head. I just was like, fuck it, it'll grow back. I went in, shaved my head, and I went into my garage and I got these glasses, these rehearsal glasses. They don't have any frames in them. It's just like, they don't have any lenses, just the frames.
Yeah.
And I looked in the mirror and I was like, all right, I'm sorry, I see it, you know what I'm saying? And started working on the voice. And like once I started to feel comfortable, like this sounds enough like, right? Like I wasn't going for an impersonation, but I wanted to get like an essence of the whole thing. And then you just did the lines over and over and over and over again. Like I go out into my garage. I used to work. Now this would vary from individual to individual. Sometimes I would ask my wife to go over my lines with me. And then I stopped because not because she doesn't have good advice, but because sometimes we have different taste, right? And so this would be a lesson for me to people. Like you have to be your toughest critic. Like you have to know when something is right for you, and you can't depend necessarily on someone else to point you in the right direction. You get a director's supposed to help you, but when you're on audition and you don't have a lot of time, some people like to go to their acting coach before each audition. If you have time, do it. If you have a trusted voice, do it, right? But if you can develop that internal voice within your own head, your own monitor, that has been my greatest gift, is that I feel like I have a pretty good internal monitor of what feels right. I encourage people to do. I will go into a garage by myself, and I will be crying and laughing. And if people saw it, you'd look like a crazy person. But it works for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
How did you handle rejection in auditions? Or, maybe you weren't getting seen for the projects that you thought you were right for. How did you handle that when you were looking for the next thing?
Yeah. I try not to take it personally, recognizing that there are so many people out there that want to do what it is that we do for a living, and there's only, a finite number of roles. So I have a sort of philosophy on delayed gratification, which is what is yours, and what is mine is mine.
Yeah.
And I can't take anything from you, nor can you take anything from me. And what has helped me more than anything has been being able to authentically celebrate other people's success. Because I feel like people have authentically celebrated mine, because you get what you give.
Yeah.
Right? What you put out into the world tends to be reflected back to you. Because if otherwise, there is a bitterness that can set in. And then
With others around you? Or
with others around you, with going into auditions, and you don't want to audition with a chip. Like that's just something else that you have to like move through in order to get to the character, right? So, and this is more philosophical, but this is sort of the essence of the question, is learning how to be at peace with where you are in your career while always wanting to get to the next place, right? So, yeah, I mean, honestly, how I get through it is loving myself and everybody else through those times that are lean.
Nice.
Does that make sense? I mean, I don't mean to
Yeah.
sound like,
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers or anything, but yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's true. So yeah, that's incredible. Is there anything else you want to say to actors about auditions specifically? Any advice?
Let's see. So some people, for camera, we're talking about camera specifically. So there's different philosophies. I try to be off book. I do. I feel most comfortable when I don't have to look down at the page. I keep the pages in my hand, because every once in a while your heart starts going ba-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da, and you gotta like, okay, now I'm back. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So you keep the pages in your hand,
That's
you know what I'm
right.
saying? And you know when you gotta flip or whatever. I prefer pages to iPad, because iPad will, like you'll be holding it and you're grooving, and then
Totally.
it dies, and you're like, oh, I gotta hit the button.
That's right.
Try to be green, but like sometimes pages, it's good to have the pages. Now I know people who are really good at just like glancing down and looking up. I feel like I'm okay. So if you feel like you're comfortable, if you're just familiar but not completely off book, great. You got to do what it is that's comfortable for you to be engaged. because you can't be buried in the page,
Right.
right? You can't be buried in the page. I would say in terms of how you engage your reader in general, try not to touch them. You know, young people who are overzealous or whatnot, like, I'm gonna get right in the
And
film.
in theater,
Yeah.
you're like, we're scene partners.
Yeah, in theater, it's a little bit different, but like, you know, they're next to the camera so that they get the best perspective of you. Don't be rolling all up on the person like the camera's like trying to pull back or whatnot. You may have some cool ideas. Wait till you book it, and then you can show me your scene work. You know what I'm saying? But you got to come up with some stuff where you have a little bit of space. Because the toughest auditions are those that have to be physicalized, where you're supposed to like freeze on the floor, you're supposed to get in a fight with somebody. I still haven't figured those out. Those are all a little strange sometimes. Make it as simple as possible.
Right.
Don't go through some kind of dumb show where you're doing ninjutsu on yourself or whatnot. Like just kind of go through that beat and get to the next, you know.
Yeah, sort of simplify the whole thing.
Simplify that whole thing.
Yeah, totally.
That's what I got.
All right. So, you know, most people know you and know all of your successes that you've been able to accomplish. But what they don't know is about the lean times.
Sure.
And, you know, so share with us a little bit about that. So I remember you telling me when we were doing Army Wives together about this apartment that you had in New York was like seven flights up, and you didn't have air conditioning, and so.
Yeah, it was a shithole. So I graduated from NYU in '01, and Uncle Sam was helping me foot the bill, and I lived like in the village, like right across the street from NYU. I graduated, Uncle Sam stopped helping me. So I moved to like 125th and 5th Avenue. And it was a 4-floor walk up. I don't want to make it like a William Wallace story. It was a 4-floor walk up.
That's still a lot.
4-floor walk up, and I lived in a furnished room. So it wasn't an apartment.
Uh-huh.
It was a room with a bed, and I had like a hot plate and a refrigerator and one window. And I can remember it was so hot because, you know, heat rises. A shared bathroom for the hall. So there was 3 apartments on the hall, and everybody shared a bathroom. Jankety jank. And the water pressure got worse the higher up in the building you went. So you take a shower, and it's like a little drizzle of pee, like you're coming out of the thing, and you have to move your body. You're like, I'm doing this one so I can like get water on my whole body, right? I had my little green fan, my little green rotating joint. It was like that, you know what I'm saying? And I would lay on top of the bed, and I'd get up, and there'd be like a sweat imprint of my body. Like perfectly, like dead man walking, sweat imprint. I would ride the bus up and down 125th Street for air conditioning.
Just so you didn't have to go home.
Just so I didn't have to go home. The room cost me $85 a week, right? And that's what I could afford. But even in that, there was a certain joy because I was doing what I wanted to do for a living. My first play out of school was at the Classical Stage Company, and it was an operetta written, it was based on a Kafka short story. It was so esoteric, it was crazy. And I didn't even speak, I just did movement. I just did movement in the thing, and it was my first gig. And I made $300 a week. And I had to pay $85 a week. I was clearing $215, you couldn't tell me nothing. It's killing the game. I was like, yo, I'm making a living.
That's huge.
Listen, I never anticipated this, right? All I wanted to do was make a living.
That's funny because I think people who've known you for a lot of years, we did.
Wow.
Maybe you didn't know, but we.
Success to me is making a living doing what you wanted to do. I wanted to be successful in that description.
Yeah.
Doing what you want to do and making a living, right? And so I was willing to sacrifice a lot of things. And listen, this is a very individual type thing, in that, not that I couldn't have waited tables or bartended or temped or anything else. I just was willing to be an incredibly impoverished actor. So that I didn't have to.
Nice.
I mean, I would stretch out, Chinese lunch specials. You know what I'm saying? To make them last from like lunch to dinner. You find a way.
Yeah.
I drank so much more water because I was like, the water
And your
fills you
skin,
up.
baby.
Water fills you up. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like there are things that I went through to do what it was that I loved, and that cleared the space. So I knew anytime I got an audition, I was free to just focus on that.
Bingo.
Right? Now I don't begrudge anybody their hustle. Everybody,
Yeah.
there's as many people as there are, that's how many paths there are to get to where you
Totally.
want to be.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? This is just me and my path, and
Keep it low.
keep it
Low,
try
low.
to keep the overhead
Low, low, low.
minimal.
Okay, so did you ever have like a side hustle job? Did you ever have to do that?
No, I've done since I graduated from grad school. I've only acted for a living.
Hot dang, that's
know.
amazing.
I know.
That's fantastic.
I know it is. Like, and people will be like, "Fuck you, Brown." Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I know. I know. Hashtag blessed.
But you also, kept it low enough
Yes.
so that you could do that.
I did. I mean, you get your month-long subway pass when you're in New York. You find ways, like clothing. I looked horrible. Horrible. I wasn't going out and getting like I was rocking when I had underwear from high school.
Shit.
Boxers. And I'd grown and my legs would get bigger, and I would cut a slit in the boxer to the point where shit was like a loincloth. It was just like blowing. I was like, you should probably get something new now. But I was like, it still works. You know what I'm saying? Like, I rocked it till the wheels fell off. And honestly, my wife actually said, I knew that we could live together once you bought new underwear, because up until that point, I was like, I don't know, bro.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is hilarious. Okay, so what advice would you give to actors about how to thrive during the lean times?
Find a routine. Find a reason to be up out of the apartment or whatever by 10 a.m. 9 a.m. ideally, but 10 a.m. because the malaise can set in when you don't have something to do necessarily. Because I went from school. You got to think, you go from grade school, middle school, high school, college, grad school, and now nobody's planning my day. So you have to give yourself some semblance of structure. Otherwise, you can just waste away Netflix, Hulu, Amazon. And that's great to watch content. It's part of it. But you got to get out of the house every day. I think that's important. I think you have to find a way, or at least for me, to feed yourself mind, body, and soul. Do something that is an intellectual endeavor. Do something that is a physical endeavor, and do something that's a spiritual endeavor. And you sort of maintain a sort of well-roundedness of those three core components of being human, right? And so I try. Look, the exercise I would do, I would fill up my Gatorade bottles with like change. I didn't have a gym membership, and I would do curls with that. I would do this push-up game where I'd flip through a deck of cards, and one card was push-ups, the other card was sit-ups, and I go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until I finish the deck. Like you find a way to make it work. And then I'm a very spiritual human being who's always looking for ways to be in concert with the universe, not fighting against, but flowing with. And I feel like that has served me greatly throughout this faith walk of acting. You know what I'm saying? So finding something to do, mind, body, and soul, getting out of the crib, reading, plays, etc., seeing content, and not seeing content with intentionality. I'm not talking about like doing a deep dive on like the housewives of blah blah blah. But what I'm talking about is, what is the work that you ultimately want to do? Are you a comedic actor? Are you a dramatic actor? Are you both? What are the things that you are drawn to in terms of like, one day I would hope to be on a show like that? Then watch it. Familiarize yourself with the different things that you wish to be a part of. so that when you find yourself in those rooms, like you can speak intelligently about like the history of comedy or whatnot, or the history of like drama and how it's evolved over time, you know, what it is about streaming that has sort of captivated you, like intentionally, not just like, oh, Wheel of Fortune, I'm about to, you know, watch that for the next 6 hours.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's talk a little bit about the time of plenty,
Okay.
right? So, what's it like to win all those Emmys? Golden Globes, SAG Awards. I mean, okay, you've been killing it. Been very proud of you.
Thank
Seriously, I've been like, yes, every time you win something. So, what was that experience like? So you go from a guy who's, you know, doesn't needs new underwear but won't buy any
Sure.
to
Frugal.
frugal
Yeah,
to, you know, this incredible success, right? What was that journey like for you?
Yeah. Okay, so it's interesting because I feel like the same person. The way people treat you is drastically different.
Yeah.
Like drastically different.
It's really sad too in a lot of ways.
You know, it's
Sometimes.
interesting, right? Like I'm not mad at it. Like I understand it because like I understand when I see somebody whose work I appreciate and admire, like, you know, I get really enthusiastic about it. And I will also give them the benefit of the doubt. Like if like the performance is cool, it's like, oh, it was cool. But you know, I still love them. You know what I'm saying? Like and I get, when I go into a room for an audition, I'm now the benefactor of being I get the benefit of the doubt, which is really a wonderful place to be in because any pressure to prove yourself of worth has been removed. Like they expect you to be of worth, and now you just show them how worthy you are, versus like having to like make sure they know, right? So that's
absolutely
that's big. I would say that. So in terms of awards, like people say, like, you know, you do the work for the sake of the work, and I would agree with that. Like the work is a reward in and of itself. But in terms of the industry and the access to opportunity, awards make a difference.
Yeah.
There's an access to opportunity that I have available to me now that I did not have 3-4 years ago. I would say the biggest sort of like lamentation I have is sort of the loss of anonymity. And that for somebody who loves people watching, it's hard to watch people when they're all watching you,
Yeah.
right? Like I truly enjoy being a fly on the wall and just like, look at this Negro. He's about to get it. He messed up, right? And now people are like, it's Sterling K. Like you can't just kind of like hang out and like peep it the same way that you used to. And so I do shed a little Denzel tear for that. And then also trying to maintain a sense of normalcy for my kids. Because they deserve, and kids naturally have a desire to be the center of attention. And so making sure that they get their shine, right? Like I don't take pictures when I'm with my family. Not because I don't want to be rude or whatever, but like, no, they get deprived of so much of their father time because of all these other things that are happening, that when they get it, they should have it in an unadulterated fashion. And you're always polite, and you always say like, hey man, I appreciate the love. I'm with my kids right now, so I don't take pictures. And most people are like, cool. So yeah, that's the plenty. And it's being navigated on a daily. It changes from day to day, but that's where it is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about how you have to manage your, you know, work life and your family life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way. Are there any other ways? Because now you're getting access to bigger projects that will take you away from your family. Because when you're broke, you're going to be home.
Right.
All right. True. So how do you balance that?
Best question and the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge of it all is making sure that everything gets the attention that it does. Everything and everyone gets the attention that they deserve. My wife, my children, the career. Like you don't want to look back on something and be like, you know what, I should have done that, right? But you also don't want to miss graduation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't want to miss anything. And so you're going to miss some things. But you just have to like make sure that you know in your mind what your priorities are. And you say, when this happens, this trumps this. And my children trump everything. My wife just had a wonderful opportunity, and she was in New York for 2.5 months to do a TV show.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was amazing. And
Because she's such a, I mean, like, I think people sleep on, like, they just don't know.
oh, they don't know.
They don't know how,
They'll learn.
I mean, they'll learn.
They don't learn. They don't know.
She's so talented.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I get what you're saying about, like, you know, she's got to have her opportunities
Absolutely.
too. So you got to.
I mean, it even goes to like being on the carpet and like decisions like, do you take pictures by yourself? Do you take pictures with your wife? Because like, you know what, she puts way more work in than your
Okay.
boy. Way more work when it comes to the carpet, and she slays.
And she, yeah,
She
I
slays.
kind of said, yeah,
She slays.
she's killing it.
She slays.
And yeah, you're just like
Yeah.
the lucky
So-
guy who gets to be
Yeah,
standing
yeah, yeah.
next to
Like
her.
honestly, like it's so funny because most award show days have so very little to do with your boy. So like I try to clear out of the way. The glam squad comes
Glam
in. Me and the kids may go to brunch or may watch some sporting event, etc. And then like about an hour before, I do makeup, put on my tuxedo, and I go. But like it's fun seeing her shine.
Yeah.
Too. Because
Yeah.
everybody, you know, even my kids, like my son came with me to the Black Panther premiere. And it was interesting because he was like, got really mad. And he'd been asking to go. He was like, how come you and mommy get to go to all the parties? I want to go to parties. I was like, all right, bro, we got a party. Let's go. It's like, how come everybody wants to take your picture? It's like, nobody wants to take it. I was like, bro, you ain't in the movie. Like relax. You know what I'm saying? One day, you get to do your little thing. People gonna come see you. Like, just give, you know, simmer down. You got to give them a little simmer down every once in a while. But you get the impulse. Like, you don't begrudge him the impulse. He's a kid. He's precocious. He's cute. Like, he wants to get his shine on, right? It's I constantly going back and forth. And sometimes things tip too much in one direction, and then you have to bring the scale back. I will say that I have more access to help now, whether it's in childcare or having someone assist you sort of organize your day, because there's so much floating in my head that doing the logistics and the art is hard. Like when you have a lot of things to do, like planning a day and then also really sort of focusing on like character is hard. So you basically hire people to be your brain so that you can focus on this other part of your brain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but thankfully I'm in a position to do it. But it is, every day offers its own sort of challenge and own sort of question of like, all right, what demands my attention the most right now?
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for actors when they reach a certain level of success? So one of my favorite things about you is you are the same guy.
Thank
you know, and I have seen it both ways. I've seen people
Change.
change. I've seen
Really?
people stay, and I've
Yeah.
seen people, you know, change into something else.
Yeah.
And so obviously the first one is preferable.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What advice would you have for actors when they get there?
Sure. Well, I've had people tell me that like fame, fortune doesn't necessarily change you, but gives you greater access to be who you are, right? So like you kind of become more of something. And if you were a bit of a nightmare, you may become just like, oh, like now you about to see what kind of nightmare I am. But I feel like if you know why you're doing it, and if your reason is something beyond fame and fortune, that sort of sustains a baseline sort of normalcy. Like, and my reason for doing it is to illuminate the human condition, to entertain, to educate, and to edify people. I want to make you laugh and cry. I want to hopefully teach you something about yourself or about the world in which you live in. And I ultimately want to inspire you to go out and make a difference, to be a better version of yourself and help to make the world a better place. And so because I know why I'm doing it, the other stuff is cool. The other stuff is really nice, and I don't, like, I'm not saying like, oh, success is awful. No, it's not. It's like, it's cool.
You
right?
like that Tesla, don't you?
It's cool. I don't have a Tesla. I don't have a Tesla. I mean, I have a good German car, but it's not a Tesla. But like, if I know why I'm doing it, and the reason is pure, then I feel like your motivations stay pure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to know why. And if your motivation is fame and fortune, then be wary, because if you get it, then what? Like, then what?
Right.
I don't know if it's a recipe for success or that it can be sustained, you know?
Keep you satisfied.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I just got a couple of more questions for you. These are actor questions.
All right. I love actors.
All right, so Kenneth Mosley, he asked, how hard was it for you to make the transition from stage to TV? And what lessons, skills do you value the most about your stage career that you brought with you over to television?
Kenneth Mosley killing the question. That's a good one.
This guy is such an amazing, he's an amazing actor.
Yeah.
He does a lot of theater.
Okay.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Great question, by the way. And I would say, like, there was a bit of a learning curve, right? In the beginning, my auditions for camera, people would tell me, like, it's okay, it's a little big. It's a little big.
Yes.
And I'd be like, what? I wasn't doing anything. Like, I was trying to make it as small as possible. I think the biggest thing that you have to learn is to trust the camera. And like we hear that in theory, but like you have to tape yourself. You have to watch yourself. You're not afforded the privilege of being like, oh, I can't really watch myself. No, you have to watch yourself. Because you'll recognize that there's something in your mind that you think you're doing, and then you'll watch it and you'll be like, oh, that wasn't quite it. But over time, what you think and the actuality get closer and closer to one another, right? But you have to be patient with yourself, and you have to be honest. You know what I'm saying? And be like, okay, that was when I get nervous or I lose a line, my eye starts to do something kind of strange or whatnot. You know, you learn your own habits.
Yeah.
And you be like, okay, now I can focus on, like, let's just see if I can maintain focus. I don't know the line. Hold it. Maybe it'll come to me. You know what I'm saying? Instead
Right.
of being like, you're right, because the camera sees that.
Everything.
Everything.
Like, so things that you could absolutely get away with on stage,
Yeah.
on camera,
Yeah.
your performance has to be modified.
It has to be modified, and you modify it based on the frame, right? So if you notice, the closest thing to theater on television is a multi-camera sitcom. There's no close-ups in a multi-camera sitcom. Your full body is exposed for the majority of the show, and so you're allowed a greater theatricality, right? Whereas a soap opera or melodrama, where it's just like boom, 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 you know, it's all about, like, you can do that. And it means, like, the world. You know what I'm saying? So, like, in this frame, this is what I'm acting with. In this frame, this is what I'm acting with. In this frame, this is what I'm acting with. And so once you understand your frame and you know what it is that you need to do to fill that frame, you vary your performance based on the size of that.
Okay, so this question is from Tammy Bembry, and she asked, what do you do to let go of nerves when you get in the audition room?
Good question, Tammy. Okay, couple things. I feel like one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got from a teacher was be careful what you do with your time. It's the one thing that you don't get back, right? And so there will be this thing when you see the usual suspects in your audition, because there'll be a pool of people that you start to see from time to time. And you'll be like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Saw you booked that. Congratulations, blah, blah, blah. And so there's room to be cordial, but if you know you need to have your head space, you'll be like, hey, bro, I'll talk to you in a minute. And what I often do is I put on the headphones. And I may not even be listening to anything, but the headphones allow me to be like that and stay in my zone, right? Because there is music that I do like to listen to. I will listen to usually music without lyrics helps me I'm able to enjoy the music and still focus on the audition. If lyrics, then sometimes I start to switch over and be like singing the song. I'm like, all right, I don't want to sing the song. I want to focus on what I do. So classical music, jazz, those sort of things kind of help me stay in the zone. This sounds really dumb and obvious, but breathing. It's amazing how often we forget to breathe. And you find yourself just holding your breath or whatnot. But every once in a while, you just have to and do it a few times, and it feels so good. You know, because inspiration literally comes through breath. So even when you're in the midst of the audition, not just the preparation, but in the midst of it, you find yourself like tight, like just breathe. You know what I'm saying? Things flow through you when there's breath, right? So like you have to know whether or not you're that person that's gregarious and like, hey girl, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. But also pick up the signals on giving people their space.
Yeah.
Because you can always talk to them after they come out of their audition.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I'm saying? And also like going at the time, like sometimes I will go in at the beginning, be like, hey, I'm a little early. You put your name in your call sheet. I like to do like the bathroom walk. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
I
talking
love
about?
that. I love the bathroom walk.
You put your name down, you go to the bathroom, you use the bathroom, you go in the mirror, you go, you may, like, just go over your lines, just get your head right, focus, and you kind of have that space to yourself.
Yep.
And then you walk out when it's a little bit closer. Some people like to walk outside, you know, and the casting director will come out and be like, Sterling Brown here? And you'll be like, yeah, right here. And you go back in and do your thing. But honestly, don't begrudge yourself anything that you need in order to feel comfortable. You don't have to sit next to the door and listen to that person's audition, right? Because like you catch yourself in the beginning, you're like, oh, they did that? Oh, I didn't think they were going to do that. And I was like, maybe I should do that. And like, don't listen to nobody else's audition. you prepared something that's yours, right? And you don't know what their relationship is with the casting director. Don't worry if they had them do it 2 or 3 times or blah, blah, blah. Like that's their turn, okay? Your time is yours, right? And so, like, because you start to play, it's easy to play head games.
Oh my gosh.
It's really, really easy. And then some casting directors, their offices are paper thin, and you hear everything. And maybe you're that dude who likes to hear it. And you're like, okay, oh, so that's what you're going to do. Huh?
Right, right.
All right, I got something for that. I got something. You got to know you, right? Me, personally, I can do either. I can listen to somebody else's joint and be like, okay. And sometimes I can just be like, I don't need to hear anybody else's joint. I know what it is that I want to do. So it's going to vary from individual to individual, but I'm saying to thy own self be true. You got to know yourself and what makes you comfortable. If you hear somebody else's stuff and that wigs you out, I got noise canceling joints that are delightful.
That's such a great idea because, you know, you walk in with headphones, people automatically know to just kind of leave you a note.
Exactly.
So it's a great way to stay focused.
Yeah, I like it.
That's smart.
Thanks.
Last question. Last question. Nicole Stanton asks, how do you keep the faith when perhaps things aren't going the way you want them to?
Hi, Nicole. Good question. How do you keep the faith? Okay, so for me, I won't say that it's easy, but I'll say what makes it easier for me is that I don't think I chose acting. I think it kind of chose me because I tried to do everything possible not to do it. Like I had an internship at the Federal Reserve Bank. I was at Stanford University as an econ major doing well. And at my time in my life, I did not think that being an actor was something that a young black man could do. I thought it was something that was reserved for people with means who just wanted to play. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't have to necessarily make a financial contribution back to their community and their family. And I knew I was going to Stanford so that I could come back and be of service, right?
Right.
So when it ultimately hit me that this thing that I thought was a hobby is actually something that I'm in love with, and that all my other grades got better when I was on stage, when I was engaged in sort of creating life. Then I realized like, oh, like it's not a matter of like, this is what I want to do. This is kind of what I have to do, because life becomes a more idyllic version. I enjoy who I am in the world when I'm doing this, right? So when the lean times come, and you find yourself questioning like, is it right or not? And like for me, I go back to that, like, I chose you, like this I acting chose you, Sterling, to be my lawfully wedded husband, to have in the home, like through good, bad, better or worse, sickness and health, till death do us part. And I'm like, yeah. I love you too. Like sometimes I forget because I'm not experiencing success that I actually do love you. And then when I do have success, what happens is those lean times, those are the things that you draw on in order to share with people, because there's nothing more powerful than when people recognize a communal experience. This man knows what it means to go through that, because when I watch him, I recognize that the struggle, you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
There is value in the struggle. Remember it. Don't be afraid of it. Like you have to be able to pull on everything from your life in order to give life to whomever it is that you're playing. So remember, in the midst of it, it doesn't feel good, but feel it. Like feel it, because you are going to use it at some point.
Right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
It is my pleasure.
I just want to say I appreciate you so much. I know you're so busy right now with award season. You said, "Hey, girl, it's busy right now," but you said, "Girl, it's really busy." But yes, I will come down and talk with you about this and share what you know with these actors, and I just appreciate it so much. Thanks, bro. You're always the best. Okay, we're gonna stand up. Thanks, Sterling.
You're welcome.
All right, that's
You're
it,
welcome.
people.
All right, man. Left frame for
That's
a hug.
it. Left frame for a hug.
Cool.
Thank you, Sterling, for sharing your journey and your wisdom with us. Your interview has inspired and empowered many actors. Thank you so much, my friend. For those of you who just watched Sterling's interview, if you want a deep delve on our biggest takeaways from the summit and this interview, go on over to our Facebook group, Get the Audition, Book the Job. It's a great place to connect, communicate, ask questions, and stay inspired.